and my identity. And I ask you, what have you got to lose? Northern Christians, they have taken your identity. They have taken your history. They have taken your humanity. They have taken your dignity. They have oppressed and suppressed you to a point that very few of you know your own history, who you are and where you're coming from. Your cultural identity, you've been robbed of it. You speak their language. You accept their version of history. As they slaughter you like flies, you don't complain. You don't complain. You make a few noises here and there, but you don't really stand up and fight. Then they are coming after your faith, which is your strength. And they say, no, being a northerner means being a northern Muslim, a northern Fulani Muslim. And of course, a northern Fulani Muslim reigns supreme, whilst every other northerner, particularly the Christians, are below. This is the reality that we are faced with today. And I thank God for men like General T.Y. Danjuma, men like that that are still alive and very much with us, who have stood up to say enough is enough. I thank God for a number of others, too many to mention here, who are still within the political arena and they're still saying enough is enough. And most importantly, I thank God for the fact that there are millions and millions of Christians in the Southwest, and non-Christians I might add, in the South-South, in the Southeast, that identify with your struggle. And I've reached out and said the only way forward for our nation is to have a strong union between the Middle Belt, the northern Christian populations in the core north, the southwest, the south-south, and the southeast, for us to come together and say, as long as one child who happens to be a Tiv or a Berom or whatever in the north is slaughtered by these people in the name of jihad or in the name of ethnic cleansing, in whatever name you call it, as long as they are slaughtered, it means that one of our own in the southwest has been slaughtered. Your pain is our pain. Your loss is our loss. Your tragedy is our tragedy. And I'm glad to tell you that that ethos, that philosophy is beginning to build up now. We are going together. A number of years ago, the Muslims should only vote for Muslims. I'm not a Muslim, so how am I expected to feel about that? We have a president who said a few years ago that an attack on Boko Haram is an attack on the north. We have a president who said, why should Christians complain when Muslim limbs are cut off in the name of Sharia? After all, it's not their limbs that are being chopped off. We have a president who said, it is my intention to spread Sharia to every state of the Federation. We have a president who said, why are Yoruba people killing my Fulani people? We have a president who has released many Boko Haram commanders. Today, many of them have been released in the name of good behavior. And he has integrated them into our police, army, and intelligence agencies. We have a president who has paid huge ransoms to Boko Haram. And of course, they've used that money to carry out even more effective operations. We have a president who, when Leah Sharif, a Christian girl, was not released by Boko Haram, and our own Khan, called for her release, they were ignored. We have a president that can advise that, look, you've arrested and prosecuted 5 people from Numan, Bachamaland, that killed one Fulani man. And that Fulani man was part of a group that went and slaughtered in cold blood 48 Bachama people, 48 Christians. They caught him and they killed him. You arrested the 5. They've been prosecuted, now they've been sentenced to death. And Khan came out and said, these people should not be executed, they should wait and not kill them. And the response that Khan got from our president, and an official in the presidency, was that CAN is nothing but a can of worms. What an insult. Do you know what a worm is? A parasite. A filthy, dirty, squeamish, disgusting parasite that feeds on the bodies of others, primarily dead bodies. And that is what a presidency official saw fit to call CAN. That is the sort of president we have. We have a president who sits by and presides over a nation as Fulani herdsmen are killing hundreds of thousands of Christians and no arrests are being made. No arrests are being made. We have a president who has recently said that he will spend 179 billion naira on building cattle ranches for the Fulani herdsmen and for Miyetti Allah, so that they can come and settle in the various states. They're in 10 states at the initial stage. Public funds. You are rewarding terrorists by building them cattle ranches in states with public funds. And by the way, we have a president that has refused to call them terrorists. And the implication of that doesn't seem to be clear to most people. The minute you have a cattle ranch, the Fulanis will come and settle in your state. The next thing they'll say, they want their own Seriki in the area. The next thing they'll say, they want Sharia law. The next thing they'll say, they want their own emir. The next thing, and you know, they will breed and breed, integrate with you and conquer you by assimilation. They did it to the Hausas. They did it to Afroja, the people of Ilorin, and that's what they will do to you. That's the whole idea of this cattle ranch. You have a president that is using public funds to do that. Ethnic cleansing, mass murder, genocide of northern Christians is worse today than at any other time in the history of Nigeria since 1804. And you know what? As Ibrahim Bunu said recently, or wrote recently, we have a president that has withdrawn Nigeria from 90 Christian-based organizations and joined more Muslim ones. He's done it quietly. He's withdrawn us from 90 Christian-based associations and joined more Muslim ones. We have a president that presides over affairs whilst churches are being burnt and clerics are being targeted and killed. And the question I want to ask you today is this: who will deliver Nigeria? Who will deliver Nigeria? We only have ourselves. And of course, more important than anything else, we have our God, who is mighty in battle and who cannot be resisted. I'll be rounding up in a moment, but permit me to say just a few more words, if I may. I've gone on for quite some time. My wife looks very bored already, which means I've gone on for too long. But let me just end by saying this. Let it not be that the experience of northern Christians is similar to that of the people of the eastern part of this country. Because it's very instructive. It's very, very instructive what happened to them. And, you know, people ask me all the time, why do I keep on talking about the Igbos and the East and so on and so forth? I do so, one, primarily probably out of guilt, because I am a product of Nigeria and I am a Nigerian. And I know our history and I know what we did collectively, each and every one of us, to the Igbos. But more importantly, because I would not want what happened to them to happen to anybody else in this country. And the history is clear. So if anybody should be bitten with the Igbo, it should be me. But what happened after that? And it's a very simple thing. 6 months later, there was what you call the Northern Officers Counter Coup, in which 300 Igbo officers were killed in one night. The Igbo head of state was killed. And you also had the killing of his Yoruba host. It didn't stop there. The next thing that happened, a few months after that, up to 100,000 Igbos were slaughtered in northern Nigeria. House to house, hospital to hospital. Babies were being cut out of their stomachs. Mothers were having their stomachs slit open. Babies were being pulled out. Slaughter from house to house. 3 pogroms took place. Prince Will is here. He lived in the north at the time. He witnessed it. I'll never forget the story you told me about how the Igbo men came out in their full regalia to defend their homes and the neighborhoods, in their full traditional regalia. And they died like men, protecting their homes. How on the train going back home to the east, they were killed, attacked with bows and arrows, hacked to death, butchered. Over 100,000. We did that to them. It wasn't a question of someone did that to them. We all did it to them. And what happened after that? The Civil War took place. And let me say this before I go any further. As bad as the Civil War was, and it really was bad, because for me it was nothing but genocide. 3 million people killed, 1 million children starved to death. 1 million children starved to death. I have 4 sons that have Igbo blood in them. And I shudder to think, had it been that they had been born at that time and they were in the East, they may well have been one of those that were starved to death. It was so bad, the American president, the French president, even the British condemned it, even though some of them supported the Nigerian side. 1 million children starved to death. 2 million people slaughtered. Genocide. Day and night. You went to Asaba. Called out all the old men because there were no more young men in town. Called out all the young boys of 15 years and below. And you slaughtered them in broad daylight. You did that. As bad as that was, let me tell you something. Had it been that a man by the name of Murtala Muhammad had been head of state, that is a Fulani man, Hausa Fulani from Kano, had it been that Jagawan Yakubu Gowon was not head of state at the time, it would have been infinitely worse. Because the agenda of the Fulani then, and this is something I want you to remember, if nothing else that I've said today, was to totally and completely eliminate the Igbos. It was Gowon that stopped it from happening. The minute Ojukwu declared secession, even before Apuri, when they started moving to the east, before he declared secession, Murtala's counsel to the young head of state, and of course Murtala was the power behind the throne at the time, so Gowon did very well to resist this, and he had the support of the British. What Murtala Muhammad counseled was that this matter has to be settled once and for all, now and forever. Command the forces to march into the east and wipe out the Igbo. Kill all of them. Eliminate them. Occupy the territory, and that will be the end of the matter forever. You seem surprised, some of you. I'm telling you history now. Do the research. Go and look at the sources. Don't listen or read what some of those that served in the war on both sides of. Go and find out what the French historians, the British historians, the journalists that were on the ground had to say about some of these people. That was the counsel. Wipe them out, eliminate them, and occupy their people, occupy their land. That was the plan. Well, thankfully it didn't go that way, but as I said, it was still very bad. It was still nothing short of genocide. After the war, what happened to them? You gave them nothing. You left them with 20 pounds. You took their property, you took their dignity, you took everything from them. But there's always a bright side to things. 10 years after the Civil War, and this can only happen in Nigeria, and that tells you we have such potential in this country that an Igbo man happens to rise up to become the vice president of the country. So there's hope. There's hope. And if Alex Akweme could become vice president of Nigeria 10 years after the Civil War, why is it that when we talk about power in Nigeria, and we talk about the next president of Nigeria for 2019 coming from the north, why is it that there's always this assumption that it should be a northern Muslim? Why? Are they not human beings? Do they not have voting power? And most importantly, do they not have a God? And I'm saying today, and I'd like this message to be sent to those that matter in this part of the country, and indeed to the whole nation. I call on General T.Y. Danjuma to either step in the ring himself and run in 2019, and if he feels If he feels that he cannot do so for health reasons or for age or whatever, I call on him to support one of his own from the north, a northern Christian, to run for that office. And we have many qualified ones. People like Dr. Jan, and so many others in the northern part of this country, in the middle belt, that can stand up. And that would be a way of ameliorating the pain and taking away our fears. That no, Nigeria belongs to us all. It doesn't belong to the Fulani. It doesn't belong to the Muslims. It belongs to each and every one of us, including them. We don't want to exclude them. We want to be compatriots with them. We want to work with them. We want to be with them. But we will not sit by and allow them to take everything from us. And let me end by saying this. You are the rear guard and the vanguard. You are our last line of defense. I am not a naive man. If you fall, and when I say you, I mean the middle belt. And when I say the middle belt, I talk primarily about the middle belt Christians. If you fall, and they manage to establish their emirates, something even Usman Danfodio could not achieve, something that Saudana could not achieve, but that Muhammadu Buhari, the third Mahdi, wants to achieve, by literally establishing emirates and Fulani colonies throughout the Middle Belt. Once they have that foothold, and they take Plateau, they take Benue, they take Taraba, they take all the other areas, places like Adamawa, Nasarawa, where you have Christian majorities. Once they've taken those places, their next target will be the south. Ahmadu Bello made one famous statement, and I will end with this. He said that it is his intention that the Fulani people will dip the Quran in the Atlantic Ocean, meaning conquest of the south. Let me tell you this, and I speak as a proud Southerner, as a proud Yoruba man. As long as Jesus sits on the throne, that will never happen. Those that still believe in this agenda and that are imbued by this satanic ethos would be wise to purge themselves of this. Because violence is a terrible thing. But at the same time, violence is not something that we, as believers, will ever run away from if we are forced into a corner to perpetuate it. We will stand and we will fight. We will never be conquered. We will never be defeated. We will never be broken. Nothing will be taken from us. They will not take our faith from us. We will stand and we will fight together with our compatriots from the east, from the south, from the middle belt. As one, we will stand and we will fight. God bless you. God bless